You have found Explorer Trek Adventure. I'm Kelly. This is Greg. And we cover everything camping from backpacking to adventure vans.
A lot of people online seem to have this sentiment that if you're not struggling or if you're comfortable when you're out in the woods or camping, you're not doing it right.
We happen to disagree.
We're going to cover two things that can make your camp life way more comfortable, whether you're in a van, whether you're in a rooftop tent.
Or hot tent.
Yeah, anything where weight is not an issue.
Yes.
Basically not backpacking. When you're out and about, it's extremely common to see these power stations at people's camps.
They've gotten pretty affordable as well.
They've got the whole wide variety of ranges. You have the small one like this. This is the Jackery 240. We've had this forever. I'm surprised it's actually still working, but it does actually still works great. And then you can get big giant power stations that can power all of your camp for days on end.
Like the battery box that you built.
Yes, we built a battery box that was specifically to power our refrigerator and for our rooftop tent. And that thing can run that for 4 days straight. Yeah, which is pretty awesome. With the overabundance of power, we scored an electric blanket.
Yes. Not when we say scored, we bought an electric blanket.
So Kelly is extremely cold-blooded.
Not cold-hearted.
Well, maybe that too. She's very cold all the time. And so when we're camping, especially in the hot tent, I thought this would be fabulous in the hot tent because we don't like to keep the stove on while we're sleeping. It's just a safety issue. We let it burn out. As soon as that stove goes out, it just immediately plummets. We have plenty of gear to stay warm, but it's nice to have a nice heat source. We have used this in the van already.
Yes, that was lovely, actually. This is a Westinghouse brand. We actually researched quite a few of them, or actually very good. This is actually a 12 volt. They do have the 120, but we ended up going with this so that we can specifically use it in our van and on the Jackery, so when we're in the tent.
If you're using a regular AC plug, you can do it with these, but running the inverter on these uses a lot of power for no reason. If you're going to do it on an off-grid in a camping scenario, definitely get the 12 volt version.
Power consumption is the real question.
Yeah, so what we're going to test tonight is we are going to run this blanket as long as we possibly can on this little Jackery 240.
Which we're going to actually have to wake up because it does have a timer that goes off every 4 hours.
Yeah.
And to turn it back on. But
so as a safety issue, it turns itself off after 4 hours, which is kind of nice. In theory, some other safety issues, it has an overheat protection. If for some reason it shorted out or whatever, it should turn itself off.
One nice thing about this blanket is that the cord that goes to your power source is super long. It's actually 7 feet.
And it detaches.
Yes, it detaches. So this can actually be washed.
And it's just a simple barrel connector.
Size-wise, it is 59 by 43, which is 150 by 109 centimeters.
And I've found it to be big enough where I can wrap myself up in this thing and have my feet actually covered.
One nice feature about this is it has 3 settings. So you got your low, medium, and high.
And it's just this simple button here. A lot of the old ones that I've seen had like a roller on here or some cable, and you had to kind of like find it.
Yeah.
This one is right on the corner. It's pretty easy to find. The only weird thing that we've found so far is it does say it has 3 settings, but when we plug it into the Jackery, it's pulling 60 watts whether it's on low, medium, or high.
So yeah, ittle be interesting to see.
So that's a little bit confusing. Not sure why. Either way, it gets super hot.
It does get super hot.
I actually had it on one morning and I grabbed it because I thought I was cold, and then I'm going to turn this thing on. Well, I put this on and I was actually warm enough where I didn't even plug it in. So
it's got a really nice soft texture to it too.
Yeah.
After the test, we will let you know exactly how much juice, how much power was sucked up by this thing.
Yeah, you're going to want to know, if you're going to use one of these, you're going to want to know how big a power station you're going to need. Next up in the mega super ultra luxury category is the Elegear
Self Inflating Sleeping Pad.
Memory foam sleeping pad. And full disclosure, this was sent to us for a review by Elegear. We have no contract with them, and they have no input on what we're going to say. I'm actually really glad they chose to send this to us because this kind of classifies under something that I personally wouldn't have purchased for ourselves. It's just not a category of thing that I would have chosen. But after using this thing, I'm actually thinking that we're probably going to have to buy another one so we both have one we're in our hot tent because it is super, super comfortable. This thing sets up exactly backwards as every backpacking pad. When you set these up, it's kind of the hard part is inflating them. When you set this up, the hard part is deflating it. It's pretty straightforward. You can see here it's got 2 valves, which is even strange to start off with. And in order to inflate it, you just open the valves all the way, which is counterintuitive, and it just sucks air in there. You can see, actually, you can look over here, you can see the memory foam, this white memory foam in there. That's what makes it inflate, is that foam is expanding in there, sucking in air. Once the pad is inflated, all you got to do is shut both valves. They did actually include another valve on the back here, which if you need, if you can open up and you can blow extra air in if you wanted to. The huge difference between like any of these air pads and then this thing is it is holding air, but the big thing is there's that memory foam in there. So when you push on it, it's all squishy in there. It actually feels really cool. It is super comfortable, remarkably comfortable, like home mattress comfortable. You'll notice up at the top here, it does have a raised section for like an added pillow. It's not super big, but it's big enough to give you a nice start.
Like our tensors, our Nemo tensors, which are 25-inch pads, this thing is wide too. It is actually 27 inches wide and 77 inches long. So I have plenty of leg room down here, plenty of side, and it's actually 3 inches thick. So it is super comfy. I think the best part about this though is there is no squeaking, no noise whatsoever. The material is a 50D, so it feels a little bit more sturdy. I don't feel like I'm going to tear this one like I do with the tensor, which we're super careful with. It also has a waterproof layer, so I'm not going to worry about having the foam like suck up a whole bunch of water.
We're going to use this in our hot tent, and that's going to be cold weather camping. And one thing with cold weather, you want to have a decent R-value, and that's what's crazy about this one. I think our Nemo tensor is around a 4.5 R-value. They came out with a Nemo Extreme, which is like an 8.5, which is like off the chart high for a pad. This thing is 9.5. Anything over a 5 is considered a winter pad. Let me show you how easy it is to put away. The only thing I want to point out is with a pad like this, the failing points are probably going to be on these valves. And the only downfall of that is there's 2 of them. But a lot of times the valves, at least the low end valves, will be like a kind of a cheaper plastic, and it'll be kind of hard or brittle. And you can actually see if I squeeze it, it squishes a little bit. So it's moldable, it's not going to crack in theory. So this will be kind of the long-term test to see how these valves hold up. When you go to deflate, you're going to open up just the top, where on a normal backpacking one, you would open up the whole thing. But this actually puts in place a one-way valve. So when you squeeze the air out, the air comes out, but is not able to suck back in. I have used a long time ago, I had a Thermarest. I think it was one of the very first Thermarest self-inflating. And it didn't have a one-way valve. And so you would roll it up and then you'd reach over to grab something to bind it up. And by the time you let go, it had sucked in all the air in and you had to start all over again. This gets rid of that problem. You can actually watch those valves push the air out and then they lock in place. All you gotta do is roll it and jump on it. Roll it, jump on it. As you get to the end, you can put your valves back in. They were also smart enough to include an oversized bag, so you're not trying to squeeze it in there. As with everything, it's not all roses, and there are some potential issues with this sleeping pad. On some of their advertising, it says this is puncture proof, and there's always going to be something that can go through that, whether it be a knife, whether it be a sharp rock, a stick. The other potential issue is the sheer size of this thing. It is ginormous. And to give you a size reference, here is a normal backpacking one. It is it's almost comical actually to see that. This is very big, and this is only a single person's mattress. To give you a size comparison, this is our 4-person hot tent. This thing is a monstrosity. This thing I think is 16 feet by 8 feet. And this is almost bigger. This could be a potential issue if you're having to store multiple of these in whatever vehicle you take. You're gonna have to see if you can fit it in there. We're going to test this mattress out tonight when we also are testing out our heated blanket. And one thing we're going to focus on is those valves to see if they somehow work themselves loose. I like to move around a lot, and sometimes that can cause issues with some mattresses. And we'll see if we can find any other issues.
The results of our overnight sleep test. How did the Jackery handle the...
Well, first of all, I do want to say that having both of these items actually does feel like cheating a little bit because it's like ultra luxury. That mattress it's kind of off the charts on comfort. When I was laying on it, I was thinking my hip was going to eventually compress, but it didn't.
Now, for the blanket...
So we ended up running it on this Jackery 240. This thing is completely dead. And it had a little bit of a struggle, not gonna lie. I think it started to show its age. It ended up lasting about 6 hours. It landed basically 5.5. It should have lasted 6, but it decided just to like I'm done.
It's too much.
I'm not doing this anymore. We did notice after 3 hours this 12-volt port started kind of humming, making a little noise, and the watts dropped from 50 to 30. I don't think it was a blanket's fault. I think it was this. We would power cycle this port, and then it was right back up. It drew about 50 watts, it's quite a bit. But we did notice that, like, if the...
And this was on the low setting as well, all the time.
We did notice if, like, you had the blanket, like, folded up on itself where it was heating up one spot, it would kind of shut itself off until it cooled down a little bit, so it didn't get super hot. I can't fathom running it on anything but low.
Yeah, I know. It would be way too hot.
Unless
even
it
for
was
me.
super cold, but yeah, it was plenty hot. 240 watt hours lasted right around 5 to 6 hours. So if you had a 100 amp hour battery, like a car-sized battery, lithium battery, you could go for a couple days.
Yeah. Like the battery box, it probably would be able to...
This battery box back here that we built is basically, close to 5 of these. And you could go, you could even power everything else and still have plenty of juice for something like this. Bottom line, would you buy or spend your own money on both of these items?
Well, considering we did spend our own money on this, yes. But the sleep pad as well, I actually would definitely buy that myself. Which is pretty, I'm pretty a little tight on.
Very cheap.
Not cheap, I'm just
frugal,
budget conscious.
Yes.
But I think I would definitely buy that.
Yeah,
it's so comfortable.
That's really one of those things you really got to use to. It's kind of like a light bulb goes off. You're like, oh, you can have this kind of comfort laying on the ground.
Yeah. We'll have links in the description below for all of these products. You can find us at exploretrekadventure.com. Go watch this video next, and we'll see you next time.